Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me, and it's been an excellent day. I'm not going to start repeating a lot of what's been said today, because everything's been covered. And I think particularly technical design issues, inspiring people about pedestrian access, about city streets, I think that's been great. So I'd like to focus on some of the hurdles in getting there. The first thing, and I'm preaching to the choir, I realize here, so changing your mindset probably not necessary, but it's a big task. And somebody said they've been going around in circles for 10 years. Well, I've been going around in them for 35 years in Hong Kong. I'm thrilled to see today and to hear what Raymond was saying about Kowloon East, etc. I think it's great that there is a big groundswell now, but we do have a very big job selling to everybody the benefits, and measuring these is something quite difficult, because when you look at, for the government perspective, to invest in rail or road, they need to understand the benefits to justify it to the public. And it's great to hear that people can now measure environmental impacts, medical impacts better. I was thrilled to hear, you've been talking a minute, that we can measure things better, and that's very important when we come to try and justify pedestrian schemes, pedestrian improvements, not to ourselves, to people that evaluate them in government, in LegCo, the public, the district council. So that's, I think, something that is worth pursuing, and it's very encouraging. Another thing is we have a lot of good manuals and guidelines, etc., but building networks, understanding networks is fundamental. We've heard a lot of that today, and I was very pleased to hear about functional, as I call it, A to B movements, active streets, and passive areas. They need to be put into some kind of hierarchy that interacts with itself and also interacts with the adjacent buildings and activities. So it's not just the pedestrian planner, it's much bigger than that. We also need to set standards. How long does it take to get from A to B, to extend public transport station catchment, better level of service for people moving around just within the city, etc. It's not just about capacity and volume and overloading escalators. It's about quality. We don't really have a professional planning process for pedestrians in Hong Kong. We've got lots of people doing great things, like the people here in Kowloon East setting up a traffic group to pursue pedestrian development. We have people doing certain studies in certain areas. I'll show you one in a minute. But we've got departments for everything that flows except for pedestrians. We've got lots of people that do bits for pedestrians, and we've done many, many studies. But we need to bring all that together and start to work towards district master plans, something that's in the planning system, something that can get budgeted, can go to LegCo Finance Committee and get dosh and build things regularly. Not a big one-off, hoo-ha for 3 years, isn't it great? It's just boringly average, like flyways, flyovers, traffic engineering. So it needs to go into the process. This is not a criticism, this is the fact that we need to work towards. In the old days, there have been transport studies that did everything and came out with a pedestrian plan. Then there was a pedestrian unit, TD, who did lots of good things. But all that's faded away, and now we just have these big initiatives, which are great, I wouldn't decry them, but we actually need a whole process. And right at the bottom is something I would like to point out. My experience is that the cooperation between the public and the private sector is not good at the moment in developing pedestrian schemes. There's a lot of issues between public areas and private areas, plot ratio, bonuses, you name it. But that at the moment is a difficulty, and everybody's losing. Jumping the hurdles. Socioeconomic impact. When you make a pedestrian scheme, whether it's pedestrianisation or widen a footpath, you change the socioeconomic landscape. The use next to that facility will change, and that's something that's quite important. It has effect on the community, changes people's living standards, brings new people in, some people lose out. So that needs careful attention, hence public engagement and monitoring. I mentioned implementation, putting in the planning process, and then we have the operational issues. We run into the hurdle of security, hawkers, blah, blah, blah. These are serious issues, and it's totally unfair to ask some department in government to sort this out when they're not resourced. When we build an expressway, we get the police force extra motorbikes. We get extra people to do the landscaping. We have to resource for doing this. We can't just suddenly dump it on a department. And it's pretty tough when you talk to people at working level. They say, I don't want to do this scheme because we can't manage it. Not because they don't want to do it, because they don't like it. A couple of quick things. Bit of a discussion today about the grain of the city. Once you make a decision about the size of lots, you've made a huge decision about pedestrian facilities, size of roads, grade separation. West Kowloon, as an example, went for big roads. There was a discussion in the 80s about making the same grain, believe it or not, and the decision was made to make it big grain. And this road actually went all the way around to Chim Sao Choi, in fact, in those days. But once you've done this, you've got big roads and then large areas where pedestrians have to be planned into the development. It's a different design issue. The first development here was Podium City, and very luckily and happily, everybody said when WKT came along, we want the pedestrians at ground level. And that spread throughout the whole of here. And now we have a fantastic opportunity for surface pedestrian activity and traffic below, people above. Hopefully we can energize in the designs even without traffic. Some people feel it can even be drab. And this shows the mobility network for people of all mobility types, plus information points and level changes. So that's something that has to be done. My timeout is to show our civic design joint study, which is the biggest opportunity around is Hong Kong Island. We've got all these railway stations, possibly new ones. We've got a bypass. What shouldn't we do? We shouldn't start arguing about pedestrians against vehicles. We should start saying, what do we want to do with the city? And then later on decide what we do with the vehicles. If we get into a battle, we'll lose the war. So we need to review all these streets. And we're having a look at Devoe Road Central, Queens Road Central, etc. We did it before, and we lost. But we're back, we'll have another go at it. We're off the canvas. And all of this area is full of opportunities now. Things that change, not just the road traffic, railways as well. Buses wanting to cut back. New escalators possible. Enough. Thank you very much.